like when you come up and you do your testimony, it's a good chance to get to know people because church services are so quick and you usually talk to the person next to you and you see some of the same faces but you don't get to know them. So if you had come to my home and I gave my testimony, I wanted to kind of give the same kind of experience. And I'm a big picture person. My life is kind of written in pictures. I'm posting on Instagram and things all the time. So I included some photos that are going to kind of come up through the beginning part of this testimony because I feel like in order to understand where and how I got to here, you kind of have to understand where I came from. So, again, my name is Courtney Lynn, as Thomas said, and the skinny version of that is that I'm the only daughter of Rodney and Pamela Lynn. I'm a sister to my brothers. I'm also a goddaughter and a godsister as well. And my life has always been God-focused, and for the majority of it, it was equally church-focused, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. But on August 22nd, in 1978, my parents came to pick me up. I was adopted 7 weeks after I was born, and if it wasn't enough to be raised in the church, I was literally brought to the church from the airport. The entire church, my family was waiting in the church fellowship hall. That was the day I was named, and that was the day I became part of not just the Lynn family, but also St. Peter's United Methodist Church family. The Lynn family from that time had gone from my parents' one son, my older brother Mike, to 4 in a matter of 2 years. They adopted my older brother, and then my mom found out she was pregnant, surprise, and had my younger brother. And literally, I can always say that the greatest gift that God has ever given to me were those 2 people. My parents, I am everything I am because of them. And, you know, the one thing that always amazes me about them is the fact that in their entire lifetime and in the time that I've been with them, you know, they lost my oldest brother when I was 2 years old. Then my mom found out she had breast cancer when I was a freshman in high school. During that time, she then lost both of her parents within 6 months of each other. Then she was in remission and came back when I was in college, followed a couple years later by my dad, also being diagnosed with lymphoma. He was in remission, but my mom is still getting treatments. And then my dad lost both his parents within a year of each other. And through all of that, I can say that not once did their faith waver. And rarely did we ever miss a Sunday in church. And that includes when we go home for holidays or vacations or family reunions. And my brother and I still find comfort in that when we go home. By the time I went to college, my church resume was pretty extensive, thanks to being raised in the church. I was baptized. Yay, little Courtney. And that day I was promised, as was promised on the day I was raised in a faith. So I went on, look at that little cross on there, went on to be in Sunday school, our children's choir. I even was in church plays and musicals. And eventually I was confirmed. Gotta love braids, circa poetic justice. And I continued, my parents were the youth leaders for my older brother, so I couldn't wait to be in the youth group, became the president of our youth group. But I also took it to another level when my dad introduced me to the greater church that we call it, United Methodist Church. So I served on our conference council on youth ministries for the Central Pennsylvania Conference, and then later I was elected to be a part of our Northeast Jurisdictional Council. And long story short, it's just an opportunity to be a part of the policies and the kind of curriculum that goes into the United Methodist Church. And that was my high school. I missed a lot of school because of it, but they were all excused absences. So this is part of my group there. And then my senior year, I was selected to go with our Northeast jurisdiction on their Mission of Peace trip to Zimbabwe, which was a life-changing experience for me. I spent 4 weeks volunteering in Zimbabwe, and when I got done, I decided that I was going to go to school, and I ended up majoring in African Studies at the University of North Carolina. I think the next picture. And while I was there, I actually met a really good friend who has since moved to the United States, Chipo, who's been very instrumental in my faith, and I'm the godmother to her daughter. And that trip and that experience kind of put me on the path that I was going to be on for the next few years. So when I started at Carolina, like all freshmen do, I went and found a church. That's what you do, right? First week of classes. I opened the yellow book. again, dating myself, went to the beginning and it was like, okay, Amity, just work my way through until I find one that I like. And I didn't have to go any further. Again, that day, God provided me with a second set of parents. Usually when you guys would see me here on Sundays, my god sister, who's traveling right now, is sitting next to me. Her name is Katie. And her parents volunteered to take me home from church after my sweet mates had dropped me off. And they became my second kind of chosen family by God. And because of them, I was able to stay just as church-focused as I was God-focused throughout my 4 years in college. And I even took an internship. Let me go back. I told Trey the story, so I'm going to share it. My junior year, there are other things that happen in college other than my Sundays in church, and I felt like I was straying from the path that God had taken me on. So I decided that I was going to rededicate myself to God, and how was I going to do that? How was I going to remember that this had been something I went through? Well, I decided to get a tattoo of a cross in the middle of my back. Small, not super noticeable, responsible, can't see it when I'm at work. But at the same time, it was a reminder to me that Jesus had died on the cross so that our sins could be forgiven. And that no matter what I did in college, no matter how much, or in life, how much I thought I messed up, that all I had to do was ask for forgiveness. And that cross was a reminder. If Jesus could carry a cross and hang on a cross for 3 days, I could certainly carry a cross on my back for the rest of my life that was only uncomfortable for about 30 minutes in that tattoo parlor in Chapel Hill. So I rededicated myself that year. That was my junior year. I got selected for a summer internship with the General Board of Discipleship of the United Methodist Church, which basically does all the publications for the United Methodist Church. And I was the Youth 99 intern, which is a big quadrennial event that they have for youth that lasts about a week long. And I gave a testimony there similar to what I'm doing now, but in front of 10,000 people in the University of Tennessee's basketball arena. And it was there that I had pretty much declared in front of God and 10,000 witnesses that I was going to go to seminary and become a pastor. And that's what I did. The next year I applied and got full scholarship to Emory University, Candler School of Theology, which Trey actually attended. And I was so excited. You know, my dad came with me. He drove when I moved from Chapel Hill to Atlanta, and I had the opportunity to dive right in. I took a job as a student pastor as well, so I could have some housing and additional kind of support, financial support, and I even delivered my first sermon. See, falling up, using my shelf silver scene book as a reference, and I knew that was where I was supposed to be at that time. But as the months went on, and I went from 22 years as a lay person on one side of the pulpit to the other side of the pulpit, I realized how much pressure there is for that person who stands up and leads us every Sunday. I realized that I'm a little fragile and I can't take that much criticism in this instance on pretty much a weekly or daily basis. And so after about 3 or 4 months, I decided I can't do this, and I didn't know how to stop being a student pastor without leaving seminary. So I made the difficult decision to leave seminary. And I had to tell my parents, I had to tell my pastors, the one I was serving under, my pastor at home, my bishop. And it felt like such a disappointment. You know, I tried to bounce back. I went right into career mode, and luckily I'd done other things in college, and so it was easy for me to get a job. I moved closer to my friends and family and just kind of went about my life for the last decade. And not that I didn't go to church, but I didn't really allow myself to connect to a church. I moved a lot for work, so I kind of used that as the excuse that, you know, it's just so hard. Like, by the time I find a church home, then my job moves me again. Like, yeah, I'll go, but I'm not going to commit to one. And I would kind of visit different churches and just kind of make an excuse, whether it's the music or the pastor's sermon or the people that attended the church. It just wasn't a good fit. And then I found Urban Village, or more importantly, Katie found Urban Village for us. And it was coming here for the last almost year and going from just that still, oh, I'll just go check it out, I'll go every once in a while, to really committing to being here every Sunday, missing it when I miss church, and realizing that this is home, like this is my church home, and that God had a plan for me